Always, Trevor Scales here holding you down alongside 10-year NFL vet, second-team AP All-American back in college, Harry Douglas. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing well. How about you, Trevor?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for asking. Over in the corner, we got Gary Striewski holding us down as well. We got a full house in the building for week 5, and we got plenty to get to past, present, and future in college football, and we will begin with what has already happened today. We'll talk a little football off the top, a quick little Heisman update for all of the candidates that were in action early on. We will begin in Texas Tech in the noon kickoff there. Jalen Hurts continues his campaign for 3 more touchdowns through the air. Had 1 on the ground and 415 yards passing to go along with it. This man is making quite the campaign with a plethora of wide receivers at his disposal.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Jalen Hurts, for me, is my front runner.
I like it.
Heisman race. He's doing his thing. He's a vet. He has that exposure and that experience coming from Alabama. And right now, he's just looking good right now.
And I'll tell you, too, right, like the chip that he plays on his shoulder. We saw it down in the pre-show meeting, just watching him, right, the way he carries himself. Joker ain't smiled all season, it feels like. He just goes out there and works out after the game. There's apparently, like, clips of him going in the weight room immediately after an absolute doorsing of Texas Tech. He's just got quite the storyline to go along with this level of play.
Well, it ties into his mental aspect of the game. He's mentally tough. He's physically tough. And Trevor, coming from the situation that he came from in Alabama, he has something to prove. He wants to lead this team to a national championship, and I know he has the Heisman winning spirit in his body right now.
No doubt about that. And let's talk a little bit about these receivers that he has at his disposal, as I mentioned earlier. CeeDee Lamb is one of them. 7 catches, 185 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the day for him. Charleston Rambo had 2 catches for 122 yards. Those type of averages are absolutely insane. He's got playmakers everywhere.
Well, we talked about this earlier. Oklahoma, for some reason, I don't know where they're finding them, but they're doing a great job of recruiting. The last 2 Heisman winners had great receivers, great slot receivers at that. Marquise Brown last year with Kyler Murray.
Hollywood, yep.
Baker Mayfield. You have Shepard. Now you have Jalen Hurts, and then you have these 2 guys, Lamb and Rambo, making plays all over the field. Listen, you can't teach speed, baby.
Not at all, not at all. And you ain't catching it either way. One thing I do want to focus on, we can gush about their offense all we want to, but what's going to come into play eventually is their defense. Yep. I want to know how many questions you got about it. You brought it up, and I was like, they standing pat for the time being. Do you think they can continue to hold it down?
Well, the only thing that I have for them right now, when it comes down to playing an offense that's efficient,
right?
Don't beat themselves. And that will be a Texas down the line for this Oklahoma ball club. Texas already have a LSU game under their belt. So they have a tough opponent under their belt and on their notch. So can Oklahoma score more points than Texas, and can that defense be physical to stop the physicality of Texas?
Oh, they are certainly physical. Those jokers will run the ball right down your face. Sam Ehlinger at the helm there. But, we talk about that defense. They've given up 352 yards per game. They're 53rd in FBS in total defense. So not necessarily great even to this point, with their opponents being Houston, South Dakota, and UCLA. So they've got a lot of things to really work out. They, again, had an impressive showing against Texas Tech. I don't know how much we're expecting from them, but they are certainly somebody that's going to be in the playoff conversation given their offensive prowess at the very least.
Well, I'll tell you, whenever you have the playmakers that they do have, and then you have an experienced quarterback, you always have a chance. You can never count yourself out. So for right now, I have this team going undefeated in the Big 12, winning the Big 12, and making a college football playoff appearance.
I like that.
And for Jalen Hurts, I want to see it happen.
Yes.
Because all the things he's been through, he deserves it. He goes hard, man. He's a leader on that team for Oklahoma. And Lincoln Riley, let's talk about the job that Lincoln Riley has done, taking over for Bob Stoops a few years ago. He has built a powerhouse program, Trevor. Like, when you think about Oklahoma, you think about, okay, we reload. We don't rebuild, we reload. And that's what you're seeing right now with all these athletes on the Oklahoma Sooners team.
From one dynamic offense through the air to another dynamic offense that's on the ground. That would be Wisconsin. They took on Northwestern today. Jonathan Taylor, a guy that's a very special back, right? We highlighted him just last week. Gary was out there with him, hanging out in Madison. And, only 243 yards of offense for Wisconsin on the day. Northwestern typically gives up 344. A solid day. Jonathan Taylor, not just his 9th straight 100-yard game, but it was really the defense for the Badgers that ended up showing out for him.
And that's who's been playing well all year for Wisconsin. They're number 1 in scoring defense, number 1 in rushing defense, number 1 in red zone defense. And when the offense wasn't clicking on all cylinders, that's who showed up for this ball club. That's who got them that win. But JT, he's the man.
Oh, always will.
But listen, I love that yoga he's doing. The yoga he's doing, it literally takes his game to another level. And I'm so glad such a young player has realized that in college. I wish I would have realized that in college.
Straight up and down. I wish I had found something like yoga just for everything that it brings to not only with the physical moments, but also the peace of mind.
That's right.
Not just that, but that offensive line that he's running behind. I was in Madison last week. Speaking on the defense real quick, the third quarter against Michigan, that was the first time Wisconsin's defense let anybody score. It was 11 quarters. They scored twice today. So basically you're talking about Oklahoma being like this powerhouse offense. That's Wisconsin with a defense. Because Jonathan Taylor, I know you like Jalen, but seeing Jonathan Taylor run in person is just something different. So right now, he's number 1 for me in the Heisman race right now because he's scoring at will almost, and we're saying 120 yards. Oh, this was an off week for Jonathan Taylor.
Right.
That's because this dude is breaking off 2 bills easy, and we're used to seeing that. So Jonathan Taylor right now is my Heisman dude, and behind that offensive line, I don't see him slowing down. This is going to be a Big Ten championship between Ohio State and Wisconsin. That's what it's going to be.
It's going to boil down to what the team level of success too, right? Like that's always going to come into play when it comes into the Heisman conversation.
That's right.
If they can beat a team like Ohio State, play ball control right, that's going to be the formula for their success against a team like that. If they are able to run through the Big Ten like that and get to at least a conversation about the college football playoff,
if we're talking about Wisconsin in December, talking about a Big Ten title between Ohio State, then Jonathan Taylor has already set himself up to be in New York City when the Heisman's awarded.
When you talk about winning national championships, though, Wisconsin has the pedigree. Great defense, control the football, control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. That's a recipe for championship football and college playoff football.
That's the thing, right? It's one of those things, those 2 elements, rather, controlling the ball, playing good defense, running the ball, whatever have you. That's something that's going to take you through the end of the season, not necessarily the onset before people get to watch film on you. That's the thing about Wisconsin. They're not changing anything about their identity. They will line up. They know exactly where they're going. They're telling you where they're going, and they are just going to keep on mashing you right down your grill. We will keep moving on into another Heisman hopeful, that is Trevor Lawrence. Not necessarily the greatest day against North Carolina, but they got the win, and that's really all you can ask for. But Mac Brown's boys showed up in a major way and gave the Tigers the fits at home.
Well, I'll tell you this about Trevor. Right now, he's struggling for this team. He's not the Trevor that everyone's seen last year, the Trevor who had an outstanding national championship victory. Right now, ETN and those skill positions, those skill players that they have, Ross, you have Higgins, you have Amari Rodgers. Those guys are right now picking up the slack, and that defense did the job today.
Oh, you know, early on when I was just kind of watching the tape on Trevor Lawrence, it's different when you are unexpected to take a leadership role on a roster versus when you're walking after an entire offseason. You've been the man at this point. They are looking to you without question walking into this year. And there's a different type of weight that sits on your shoulders when you're walking into the locker room that go round. And so there may be a little bit of a mental dynamic at play here where he's feeling a little bit more pressure having to carry the load of that team more so than he did last year.
Well, he's definitely feeling that pressure. But as a quarterback and the way Trevor came up and the high school he came from and all the success that he had last year, you have to expect that pressure. You have to know it's coming, you have to embrace it, and you have to be there for your team, and you have to perform. Listen, you're only as good as your last game. Last year doesn't matter right now. It's all about 2019 college football season.
And you saw how it all unfolded there as the highlight runs through. North Carolina makes the push, gets the score, comes within 1, and because they know they don't want to go any longer with Clemson than they need to, go for 2, try to get up out of there with the win. Unfortunately, they fall short, and that's how that game wraps up. So those are 3 early contenders for Heisman that we all had coming. One of the best matchups from the noon slot was the Texas A&M and Arkansas game, and that was one that we watched go down to the wire. Kellen Mond, a productive day at the office, 25 for 35, 251 yards, and 3 scores through the air.
Well, Kellen Mond, he is struggling also right now, too. That's the scary thing. And for Jimbo Fisher, he was on pins and needles today because if he would have lost that game to Arkansas, A lot of people would have been having a lot of chatter about, was Jimbo the right guy? Should we have brought him in? But Kellen Mond has to play better football. And kudos to Chad Morris, man. Chad Morris had his guys ready to play football today. They were physical, and it's unfortunate they couldn't come down with the victory. But I'll tell you one thing, it's looking promising for this Arkansas football team after today.
And I'll tell you, man, like you watch as this highlight plays out, just the weird amount of plays that happened. And Arkansas was capitalizing on turnovers. They were down to their second guy, who was originally a starter at the beginning of the season, but he steps back in, ends up making a few boneheaded plays down the stretch, but still got them in a position to win potentially at the end of this game. They end up getting outlasted by a more talented team, a team that really was expected to win by 4 touchdowns, I think was the spread. But you go into Arkansas, you go into Jerry World, an Arkansas graduate, and he comes off with and gives off the energy, I guess, to pump them boys up to get ready to go against Texas A&M.
But I tell you, whenever you're a college team or a college player and you get to play in these NFL stadiums, Trevor, that's different lights now. You're not in your college town. You're not in the opposing team's college town. You're under different lights. You have NFL executives in the building. You have scouts in the building. So you have a different crowd watching you. So it's a different feel. So you want to go out there and show those guys you belong on this football field. You belong at the next level. And that's what happened today with this Texas A&M and Arkansas game.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think about it, when you walked into this game, the 2-2 records were certainly not the same. I talked about that earlier on, right? You're looking at a Texas A&M team that lost to Clemson and Notre Dame, right? Both within 1 score. And so it's a matter of seeing that and thinking that they were going to run away with this one, but they didn't. To your point, Chad Morris had the boys ready to go. Jerry Jones apparently had a little something to do with it too, and that was just a really good showing by an Arkansas team, even though they still haven't won. I believe they've lost 13 straight conference games, 10 straight under Chad Morris, so they're hopefully going to try to right the ship and get something corrected down the line.
But I'll tell you about Chad Morris. When he takes over that Arkansas program, when he took over, we talked about this earlier. You have an Auburn, you have an Alabama, you have an LSU. So when you're playing in that SEC West, you're not one of those 3 teams. You're at a disadvantage. You can't recruit the same. You can't get the same guys that they get. But you have to work with what you have. And I think Chad Morris is doing that.
Yes.
So it's a great thing to see from a player's perspective, ex-player perspective, on a coach who's trying to make a promising stand for his ball club.
Yeah, and I think that expectation is important to set, right? Understanding that you are in the SEC West.
That's right.
And now that LSU has found their quarterback, they're about as scary as anybody. Like, that's a region of college football that is going to concern you regardless of where you are within that region. Like, you have to be aware of the fact that that LSU team is now there to stay, at least for this season, with Joe Burrow at the helm, and he's apparently found an offense that is just as explosive as all get up. They're finally getting the ball to their skilled players.
Well, they have Chase, they have Jefferson, they have a nice running back, but they have a quarterback who is very efficient. He's not losing them football games. In the past, I'll tell people all the time, if LSU would have had a quarterback the last 10 or 15 years, the national championships that Alabama won, LSU would have won.
That's fair. That's fair.
They have better athletes.
That's exactly right. That's the exact point. And I think even though the recruiting classes may tell you otherwise, like the guys that we see come out of LSU every year come draft season, right? Like they had an unprecedented amount of juniors come out one year that just still went in and made an impact immediately in the league. But just to kind of touch on Bama, they did very Bama things today. There was one receiver by the name of Devontae Davis that had 9 receptions, 5 of them were touchdowns, and it just got wide open in the first half, and they continued to roll on to beat Ole Miss, 59-31.
Well, if you're Tua, you're a kid in the candy store. You got Ruggs, you have Devontae Smith, you have Jerry Jeudy, you have Waddle, and you have Najee Harris at the helm at running back. So it's basically pick your poison. Okay, who are you going to double? Earlier today, we seen the Ole Miss defense, they doubled Jeudy. So what does that mean? Okay, here we go Smith.
Yep.
Okay, here we go Ruggs.
Yep.
Here we go Waddle. So it's pick your poison. And if you're a defense, you cannot be right. If you do not get pressure on Tua Tagovailoa, you are not going to win that ball game. You're not going to stop that offense. And if you definitely don't stop the RPO game, I don't understand how teams or defenses are still allowing Alabama to run RPO slants and catch them for big plays.
It's because they're so concerned about the pressure, right? Like there's so many different things that you have to worry about with Alabama, because not only do they have a wide receiving core that'll put you to sleep as quick as you can bat an eye, but they also have Najee Harris in the backfield that's going to be able to tote the rock if they need him to. They'll play ball control if you want him to. They also have a quarterback that makes really sound decisions in Tua Tagovailoa. Even though he was a little bit off today, like we saw it today, the throws that he was making, a little bit sailing over the heads of receivers, missing wide open cats, but he's still going to make the correct read, the correct throw. He's going to have it there on time, and you're going to have to worry about all of that.
And that's what you want. That's what Nick Saban wants. Nick Saban, if you look at his pedigree of quarterbacks, Tua is the best pedigree of quarterback that Nick Saban has ever had in his entire coaching career.
Yes.
So his mindset before Tua, okay, let's get our quarterback to not lose us football games. He had to let go of that. He had to let Tua be him and win football games for this football team. As you can see, they went from the eye back, handing the football off, power running Derrick Henry, who I know very, very well, to spreading them out, let his receivers showcase their talents. Your DBs can't guard our receivers. You don't even have enough DBs to guard our receivers. So let them do their thing. Let them showboat. Let them play paper, rock, scissors to see who gets the big plays. But I love it. Like you said, Jared Jeudy had a touchdown today, a wide open touchdown on the post that Tua sailed over his head. But let me tell you what I love about Tua. He corrected it. Devontae Smith had the same play, remember? And he threw it on the line, threw it on the rope. Touchdown, Devontae Smith, big day, 5 touchdowns, Alabama, another W.
How ridiculous is it, though? Because, Harry, I asked you this earlier. Whoa, Bama got 3 first-round receivers. Correction. They got 4 first. I mean, if they could declare it for that draft. That's ridiculous in and of itself. And this is more of a hypothetical that Heather Dinich, when she joins us later, can, touch on. When we're talking about rankings, you can't necessarily penalize a win. Clemson still got the job done, even though UNC was 2 yards away from upsetting them by 1 at home. Bama doubled up an SEC opponent. Do we see them flip-flop when the AP poll comes out next week?
I could see it very well be a rationalization, but I don't think it's necessarily deserving. Again, just like you said, a win's a win, and I'm going to kind of just ride out with the rankings, especially because of the pedigree that Clemson has shown in the last couple of years, and that they aren't anything to mess with either. Like, they are certainly there to stay, and you're going to have hurdles along the way.
What does Lee Corso say? Not so fast, my friend.
That's your boy, huh? That's your boy.
Not so fast, my friend.
I just had to pose the question, Harry. And by the way, the commenters right now on YouTube, don't jump down my throat. This is a hypothetical question that I'm tossing to the panel of experts. So
leave Gary alone.
If you have a question,
alone.
hit us up on YouTube. We actually have a couple questions pertaining to Oklahoma and pertaining to a couple of quarterbacks. Very quickly here.
Okay.
No top 5 team so far has lost. We have one question that says, does OU crack the top 4 or the top 5 based off of their performance? I don't think so, because like I said, nobody's lost.
Exactly. That's the thing. I think it holds pat and maybe a change at 1 or 2. We've had a lot of serious football discussion, and that's all good and well, but I got a Georgia boy next to me, and I would like to get to know him on the college football show here on Twitter, YouTube Live, and the ESPN app. My man, again, 10-year vet, 7 years with the Falcons, 3 years with the Titans, right?
That's right.
Second team AP All-American back at Louisville, did his thing. We got B-roll footage for you that will blow your mind, and he's going to be able to talk about and give himself a little bit of love as we kind of go down the memory lane of what Harry Douglas. So here he is. We got the past, 2 versions of the past now, right? Like on either side of it. And tell us about this thing, because what you have? 13 for 223 and a tutty against Kentucky on this
Well, I'll
day.
tell you this. First of all, Kentucky is our rival. I don't even want to say their name. Trevor, I don't even want to say their name right now, so I'm going to say the guys in blue.
Okay.
The guys in shoe. The guys in shoe. They had the audacity and the nerves to try to match a corner on me. Try to disrespect me. The entire game, I gave him 200 yards plus. You see how I flipped the ball right there for a touchdown. Looking at the Kentucky bench like, please don't ever disrespect me like that again. Not a chance in hell.
There's the resume. Look at that. We got some fun facts down there, too. You can sing. Do you have a go-to karaoke song when you go to the bar? Do you have a go-to karaoke song?
It doesn't matter to me. I'm an R&B man.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
okay.
I'm more of a
like 90s R&B?
I'm a 90s music guy, R&B guy. So whenever I'm doing things at the house, I'm always playing music. My wife is probably going crazy. Watching it right now, saying, "Oh, please, give me a break."
You can go ahead. Look, we got time.
Wait, Harry, time out.
baby.
Time out. You're an Atlanta guy.
Yeah.
You can sing. You got Usher's number in your phone?
I don't have Usher's number in my phone, but a lot of people I know can get right to Usher.
I'm saying,
just a couple of degrees
But listen,
of separation.
Usher's been running from me because
Where's your
Usher knows that I'm good in spades. And I know
Oh, you
somebody
wanna
who
smoke a
knows
spade?
Usher very, very well. And they play spades together. So they're running from me and my spades partner. So, Usher, if you're watching, you can't run too long, baby. You got it bad.
Oh, here we go.
Don't let them get going here on the College Football Show on Twitter, YouTube Live, and the ESPN app. A conference that we haven't mentioned just yet. We talked about Big 12, talked about Big 10, talked about SEC, but the Pac-12 is a really interesting case study right about now, considering the fact that we don't know who's good yet out of that conference. We had a game between USC and Washington today that might have shed a little light as to who will eventually be the top dog. Jacob Eason and the Huskies took care of business at home.
Well, one thing for Jacob Eason right now, he's making the right read for this team. But today, it was all about Ahmed, the running back for Washington. He carried those guys. He put them on their back. The defense was forcing a lot of turnovers from USC. And for USC, for those receivers that have not such a dominant game, it's upsetting to me. It's upsetting to me because when you look at Washington lost two guys to the NFL, and Byron Murphy, who's with the Arizona Cardinals, and Jordan Miller, who's in Atlanta right now. So I thought today they were going to struggle against their receivers, but when you have a quarterback that can't get those receivers the ball, it's going to be difficult, and that was the case today.
Jacob Eason, typically a good decision maker. We were watching in real time and wondering why he was taking sacks on third down.
Yeah.
They were just mystifying plays, really. And you mentioned Salvin Ahmed, 17 carries for 153 yards and a touchdown for him, clearly the top performer of the day. And you mentioned those turnovers, 3 turnovers for USC and 15 points off of those turnovers for the Huskies. So that's the recipe for success, essentially.
Well, I'll tell you, that's the name of the game, whether it's middle school, high school,
every
college,
level, Pop
NFL.
Warner.
If you can't win the turnover margin, your chances to win are going to be very, very slim.
Yes,
and then
sir.
when you do get the turnovers on the flip side, you have to get points off of those turnovers, so you can make sure you win those football games.
No doubt about that. We have a What's Going On update from one more time, because I didn't hear you. I was talking. Iowa State? Okay, yeah, I think that's what you said. Okay, cool. I have a producer in my ear here on the College Football Show, just so y'all are aware. I'm not just talking to nobody. Like, people are responding to me. I'm not that crazy. But let's head out to Iowa State, check in on them. Going down right now. You know what? Just pause. Everybody take a breath. We're just going to figure this out just for a little bit. Everything is fine. I'm going to filibuster for a little bit, but it's still happening. I can assure you here on the College Football Show. But just to kind of rewind, let's harp in on that Pac-12 conversation. You know what? Never mind. We are rolling. In any case, Baylor was up 20-0, and here comes the Cyclones. Total up the middle there for the score, and they're within 14, pending the extra point there. They get it. Another drive going down. Little throwback action. Wide open, easy catch, pitch and catch for the running back. He's in the score. And they just continue to chip away at that lead. Later on, fourth quarter action. 3 and change left. Heck of an effort. He sneaks that one in there. Touchdown called. Oh. Quite the play there made, and they are up 1 after the extra point. So Baylor lining up from 38 out.
John Mayers, money.
Yes, sir. Cash. 23-21 ends up being the winner for Baylor. Not exactly a whole lot of expectations out of that program, but a good, gritty win for a team that just looks to get a little bit better each year, having gone through the things that program has gone through.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm actually a little close to guys who are in that Baylor program. Their offensive coordinator, Glenn Thomas, was our quarterback coach when I came to Atlanta for Matt Ryan. And their receiver coach, Frisman Jackson, was my receiver coach in Tennessee. So I actually talk to Frizz all the time about his guys, and I'm glad they can pull this win out because I know that offense that they run is a lot of things that we did in Tennessee and we did in Atlanta. So if it's ran correctly and the guys make their plays, they're going to be efficient. They're going to come out with some dubs.
There's no doubt about that.
They're still undefeated right now, too, right?
Yeah, 4-0, 1-0 in conference. So that's a great win for them. Again, shout out to you folks down there as well. This is the College Football Show here on Twitter, YouTube Live, and the ESPN app. Trevor Scales, Harry Douglas, Gary Striewski over in the corner holding us down. Make sure you chime in with tweets, comments on YouTube, or whatever. Don't be too mean to Gary. He's
That'd be very much
Be nice to
appreciated.
Gary.
Because
Don't-
listen,
don't make me come through there.
I was the best wide receiver in this room, the only one, until Harry showed up.
game is the game, bro.
And that's not saying much.
Game
Well,
is
since
the
we're
game.
talking about Atlanta, move, Gary. Get out the way.
That's
Get
why-
out the way, Gary.
That's why I'm in the corner. And that's why I'm in the corner.
That's okay. We still love you, and we'll make sure everybody shows you love too in the comments section. Let's get back to the SEC. Florida, a team that had a change of quarterback courtesy of a tragic injury to Felipe Franks. Kyle Trask steps in, has a heck of a day. I'm just not necessarily a fan of the uniforms. That's just kind of what that is.
Well, I don't like that orange. It's just Halloweenish. It's not October yet. Wear the orange in October when it's around Halloween.
We on the
time.
doorstep of October, just in fairness to them. But yeah, no, I don't disagree with you.
But I did think this was a big game for Trash to come out here and be efficient leading up to the second part of that schedule and the later part of that schedule that they have. That's going to be gruesome when they play a lot of better teams. So he had a great day. He had a solid day. So it was good to see him do that. He also has P. Ryan at running back. He has Coach Sean Jefferson, who coached me at receiver
Look at that.
also
Look at that.
at Tennessee. Van Jefferson, his son, under the helm. He just needs to be able to deliver these guys the ball because Florida has the athletes.
Without
It's just a matter
question.
of the conversation we had earlier about LSU back in the day not having a quarterback. Now, if Trask can be a little bit of decent, you don't have to be outstanding.
Efficient.
You just can't beat yourself.
Don't
you
turn
just
the
can't
ball
turn
over.
the ball over. And you first down, you have to be efficient and have positive first down
Stay on
plays.
schedule, all
Ahead
three
of the
downs,
chains.
making sure that
There you
it's
go.
third and short, third and manageable,
go.
so that you can continue to roll. A team that's continuing to roll, let's check in on Michigan State. I believe we have an update from there as well here on the College Football Show. No? Is that what I'm hearing correctly? Okay, we're going to stand by for a second. We will continue to update you on that. They ended up winning 40-31. Big win for Sparty. They were tied at 31 at one point with 5 seconds left. Okay. Okay, so I got a bunch of stuff told to me in my ear. We're going to wait for the video to actually show you exactly what that is because your boy has like short-term memory loss and it's like kind of weird on your boy. I'm trying to remember and recall things. That's on me. That's a larger discussion. Twitter football. This is College Football Show, Week 5 edition. Trevor Scales, Harry Douglas, Gary Striewski holding you down as well here in Studio B Lounge. Oh, there it is. There's a highlight. Oh, we had an animation. Just everybody be patient. I know you're all excited to see this.
They caught me dancing too.
They caught you. That's okay. That's
getting
the
to the
type of
music a little
vibe that
bit.
we like to set up here at the College Football Show. We have you have free reign to just kind of do your thing around here. Gary, did you still have a couple questions over there? in the
Yeah,
corner
let's
for us?
actually get to a couple of these questions
Let's
here.
talk to the people.
Yo,
Let's see what
chime
y'all
in
want to know.
on YouTube. A lot of people saying Gary's just doing his part, so props to me. Actually, all the comments
Gary?
are just
That's all
showing
love?
Gave love.
We got a double
Yo,
action.
actually,
I'm
if you
not
guys do
entirely
have,
certain
do have
that's
comments
exactly what's
on
happening.
YouTube, hit us with them right now. We did actually have one person ask who is the most improved quarterback that we've seen thus far this season. But really, we haven't seen very many quarterbacks that we didn't know of last year, either making incredible strides or not picking up where they left off last year.
I have one. I'll say Jalen Hurts. The knock on Jalen Hurts
That's a
when he
good
was
one.
at Alabama is that he couldn't pass the ball and make the throws that he needed to make to get Alabama over the hump. When you transfer to Oklahoma, you're going to be passing the football.
No doubt.
So this entire offseason, he's been working with Lincoln Riley and their OC to be an efficient passer, and right now it's showing because he is the leading candidate for the Heisman Trophy winner.
I would wholeheartedly agree with you, and it may not necessarily be a stark improvement, but I will say that like Justin Fields, it took strides. I think it's a matter of what we saw from him at Georgia just wasn't a lot. He had a package built for him. Kirby Smart would rotate him in for a couple plays here and there, and he did well for those plays, but what we're seeing from him at Ohio State is quite literally historic. This man is going on, he has a chance tonight to go for 5 straight games with run rushing and 1 passing touchdown, something that hasn't been done by an Ohio State quarterback since Braxton Miller in 2013.
Speaking of the Buckeyes, Zooted Ray, how far you think the Buckeyes are going to make it this season? I said off top
Hold
of the
on,
show.
what's
Yeah, I
his
was
name
gonna say,
again?
we got to
What?
stop down on that.
Zooted Ray.
Zooted Ray.
Zooted and booted
Zooted
Ray.
Ray. You better not be zooted while you're sitting in these questions.
Or you
I
can
know that
be.
right
We
now.
are not here to judge.
I'm not
Harry.
judging you.
We're not here to judge. You do whatever you want to as long as you are contributing to the conversation.
We'll put it like this. Zooted Ray, you better not be driving. I know
that's a good point. Yes,
That's
do
better.
not be zooted, drive, and watch this show at the same time. Eliminate 1 to 2 of those things, and we can make sure you're safe. In any case, to answer Zooted Ray's question, I think they have every shot in the world to make it to the national championship, the college football playoff at the very least. The level of offense that they're playing, Chase Young on defense by himself is a terror for anybody to have to account for. And so that team is just as talented as anybody up at the top of that sport.
Grown man.
Yes.
Chase Young is a grown man. And if a team in this year's NFL draft do not need a quarterback, Chase Young will be the #1 draft pick in this year's NFL draft. I promise you.
No doubt about that.
He's that good as a defensive end. But if those guys run into Wisconsin,
Yeah,
I don't.
If they
in
can
that
play
championship game,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if the Buckeyes, in my opinion, can get away from Wisconsin because they're just so stout on defense. They don't beat themselves. They're well coached. The Wisconsin Badgers right now are holding their opponents on third downs to 10%.
Yeah, see, that's the type of
10% on
defense
third
that
downs.
is going to be universally great and really contribute to your roster regardless of the time of the year. That's a team that you have to look out for going forward. But let's take a look out. Speaking of going forward, let's look ahead to what's going down this evening. Full slate of games that we have offering right here on the ESPN app. If you happen to be watching us there, just log into your cable provider. They'll make sure you get you right. You can check out all these games. Auburn looking for redemption after that behind whooping that they caught from Mississippi State last season. UConn and UCF. UCF just trying to maintain. Hopefully they get a little help at the top that allows them back into the playoff conversation. And the headline of them all, Ohio State heading into Lincoln, Nebraska, where college game day was. That is one heck of a matchup going down. Ohio State trying to continue that run behind the efforts of Justin Fields and Chase Young. So, speaking of Lincoln, Nebraska, Shawty was out at game day and countdown to game day. That Shawty being Maria Taylor, and she has an update with us. Let's kick it with Maria Taylor.
Hey guys, welcome to Lincoln, Nebraska. And I know a lot of question on people's mind is, do the Huskers have a chance? Let me tell you something. I'm sitting here right now and I'm watching the Clemson, North Carolina game where Clemson just took the lead in the fourth quarter because they're playing a solid team on the road that is well coached. Let me tell you what Nebraska is. A solid team with an amazing home crowd and a group of people that are going to support them the entire game and a coach that can outcoach anyone in the nation, or at least coach with anyone in the nation. Now, Scott Frost is here. He's been really building his program, and he talks about the things that he implements, whether it's in the weight room and squatting and getting back to the grit and grind of Nebraska, making sure the black shirts and everyone understands what that truly means, to making sure that his team believes that they can win every single game. Remember, it was a close game against Illinois. Everyone expected Nebraska to roll, but he said that they learned a lesson in that moment that's going to help them this week. And what is that? How to win. And it's not easy. It's not as easy as it seems. Learning how to win is actually a very real thing in college football. Now, Ohio State, on the other hand, we know all of the highlights. J.K. Dobbins has changed his whole entire body from 12% body fat to 8% body fat. He's already had 2 games where he's rushed for over 100 yards, and he had 3 games of 100 yards rushing last season. So he's off to a great start. Justin Fields changes the game for Ohio State. He said when he showed up, it was really, really important to him to be diligent about making sure he understood his team, gained that trust, but also understood the offense, and you can tell it by the way that he's been able to play early. Listen, it's going to start raining here soon, and they're still going to try to air it out with Justin Fields, but it might be difficult from the beginning, so look for a pretty big game from the running backs, J.K. Dobbins of Ohio State. And then, again, watch out, it could be a close game. I just wouldn't be surprised with the atmosphere and all of the energy in the field that Scott Frost has brought to this Nebraska Cornhuskers team.
Also, never surprised by the incredible reporting that Maria Taylor does on site. We appreciate you, Maria, and I want to go back to that Nebraska team that she happened to touch on. Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler, by the way, just did their stand-up in the booth, so that game is getting ready to kick off over on ABC. Make sure you check that out. But, Harry, to you, this Nebraska Cornhuskers team, what exactly can we expect? Do you see this game being close with regards to Ohio State?
Actually, I think it can be with the Nebraska defense, but if this Nebraska Cornhusker team, they want to get back to the Tom Osborne, the Tommy Frazier, the Lawrence Phillips, Amon Green, the Scott Frost, the head coach of your team. You want to get back to those days and being a powerhouse, the black shirts, you win this game tonight. Primetime TV against the number 5 team in the nation with the Heisman candidate over there. You dominate this game, you win this game tonight in front of the world when everyone is watching, you're going to get recruits. You're going to get guys to come in, and it could be a staple for your team moving forward tonight.
If they get a close loss, is that enough to kind of swing the pendulum at least to the side of excitement for this program?
Well, see, I've never been a fan of moral victories. So either you win the game or you don't win the game. I don't care. If you're close and you had an opportunity to win the game, to correct the mistakes that you made not to win the game. So that's how I truly feel about it. But I do think they have a chance tonight because I don't think Justin Fields have seen a defense like this Nebraska team. So we're going to see how he's going to be able to adjust to a team who is actually solid on defense.
Percent chance, according to ESPN's Football Power Index, what do you think percent chance Nebraska wins the game tonight? I got the answer right here, so.
I think
what you think?
I looked at the preview last night because your boy does his homework.
Of course.
Just kinda put that out there, right?
Harvard educated. I had
You know what it is. 9.8%.
Harry, what about you?
I'm going 15%.
Okay, well, you should have copied Trevor's answer because he saw it last night.
I told you, bro.
I know Trevor went to Harvard, but I graduated with a hell of a GPA also, and I never copied out people's tests. So why would I do that, Gary?
Integrity here.
Tell me why would I do it?
15%. Find somewhere in the middle. I love how you brought back the black shirts because growing up in Colorado and the CU-Nebraska rivalry, so they're about to roll out the black shirt jerseys this year. Tonight would have been the perfect time to do that because the Tom Osbornes, nobody wanted to go into Memorial Stadium in Lincoln and play those dudes. They were bad.
I will say, you never know. They may not have told anybody that they're busting out the black shirt. Look, Georgia did it one time. They rolled out there in the warm-ups in the red, came back in the locker room, busted out the blacks for the actual game.
If there was ever a time to bust out the black shirts with the skull and crossbone on the patch, I got goosebumps. I don't even like Nebraska. What the hell? What am I doing?
Look, guys, I'm going to tell y'all this.
Tonight.
So I grew up. Yes, I have to admit this. I went to Louisville, but I grew up a Florida fan. My mom went to Florida. My dad's from Gainesville, Florida. I wanted to play for Steve Spurrier. He wasn't there. On to Louisville I went. But when Florida played Nebraska in the national championship a long time ago, and they beat them very, very bad, Tommy Frazier had a run that I would never forget. I'm probably still seeing nightmares about it right now. I said, you know what? This is what college football is about. The physicality, making plays, the big stages. Listen, big-time players step up and make big-time plays in big-time games. So tonight, Adrian Martinez, you want to count yourself as a big-time player, you make big-time plays tonight on this stage.
A big-time quarterback on that side, but there's no shortage of a big-time guy on the other sideline. That is Justin Fields. And instead of us talking even more ad nauseum about this game, we can get you over to today's lesson, and that is brought to you by Dos Equis, and it features my namesake, a guy that always does a heck of a job breaking down some tape. That is one Trevor Maddich.
Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields is off to a blazing start, in part because head coach Ryan Day doesn't slow him down with information overload. Now, he's already an accomplished runner. Defenses have to account for this first because one small mistake and they'll get torched. But Fields is relatively new to the pass game, so Day helps him out by not requiring so much scanning from side to side and decoding defenses. He'll give him one section of the field to look at and then give him multiple options in that section. Someone short, someone medium, and someone deeper. In this scenario, Fields doesn't even really need to know what the defense is. He just needs to find the open guy. And another look from his perspective shows that if he doesn't like the guys on the right, he'll just hit the guy that's over the top. And by the way, nice throw, kid. Didn't have to decode things in the pocket. He could just be natural. Now here's another way to get to that same place of multiple receivers in his line of sight. Beautiful touchdown pass, and another look shows that if there's no deep safety to bother his number one option, he'll just throw it. But if there is, the number two option is coming into his line of sight. He doesn't have to scan side to side and decode in order to find that guy. Now, as time goes on, they'll be able to add more complexity. In the meantime, the way to maximize his natural ability to run and to throw is to not overload him with too much to think about. That's one of the reasons that Justin Fields has gone from an untested transfer to a Heisman candidate.
The production team also does that for me. Just don't give me too much stuff to think about. Just keep it simple for your boy. That's all I ask for. My man Jason Fitz is out on the road. He has a very different setting for his breakdown. Your boy found a tailgate at a gas station. I'm just going to lay out after that note.
I'm new to the game day experience. I've been hanging out every city so far this year. Nebraska's different. I'm just going to be honest. From the minute we walked into game day today, the psyched out crowd, the way they've been. This is the first game day city I've been to where we didn't see a single fan from the opposing team at game day up against the gate. It's the first time it's happened. And there's an energy to this. And it's funny because this morning, if you watch Countdown to Game Day, which you should watch, if you watched it this morning, you saw I went around to all the different fans and I asked them what makes Nebraska great. Pitch me Nebraska. The number one comment we got unsolicited from each group was community. The more you walk around here, the more you see it. What makes Nebraska incredible is the community. There's a give back between Nebraska football and the community and the way they give back to the football program. 371 consecutive sellouts is already impressive. But when you think about the fact that some years they've been good, some years they haven't, they've still maintained that, it's incredible. I can't guarantee you today's going to be a great game. Luckily, I'm not on the big screen, big speakers for people to hear. I think Justin Fields and Ohio State are just too talented this year, but that doesn't mean that Nebraska is not building towards something absolutely incredible. I'm also getting booed by everybody now. Gentlemen, this is the environment. I wish you were here to celebrate it with me. Most importantly, Trevor, I'm glad you finally found an actual football player to hang out with on your show. Throwing shade. Back to you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Jason, watch your mouth, because a lot of these people that you talking spicy about are a lot bigger than you. And I say that as your brother in the sub-6 foot gang. Just don't do that.
Bonnie Carpenter would like some words.
And I don't know why he would say that, because my guy Trevor is over here looking like Little Scrappy. You don't want them problems.
Little Scrappy.
Okay, KK. You don't want them problems.
Little Scrappy. That's how you know a Jordan boy sitting next to me. That is a telltale sign. If Little Scrappy gets brought up,
ATL. Okay, KK.
ATA.
The beauty of the college football show, we have a sense of urgency about ourselves. We get you to exactly what just happened, and something that just happened might have been the end of the game for Mississippi State. Auburn done went off on a run. They done put up 21 points. Mississippi State got a hand up to 6 and everything. That's Anthony Schwartz to the crib for one of the touchdowns that we have on the evening. Auburn off to a very hot start.
And I'll tell you about this Auburn ball club. A lot of people saying, okay, Bo Nix isn't doing this. Bo Nix isn't doing that. Trevor, I'll tell you this. I'll take it to the NFL for a second. Remember the 2000 Ravens team?
Yep.
Who was their quarterback?
Trent Dilfer.
Trent Dilfer did not have to do much. He had Jamal Lewis. Auburn has Whitlow. He had a hell of a defense. Auburn has a heck of a defense. You have those D linemen. You have Derek Brown. You have Nick Coe. You have those guys that are stout up front that can hold off opponents from scoring at will. So Bo Nix, he doesn't have to do much.
Not at all.
All he has to do is manage the game. That's all he has to do. But I tell you this, when he does get comfortable, watch out now, because this Auburn ball club can be scary down the line as the season goes further.
We saw flashes of his brilliance game 1 against Oregon,
That's right.
that game-winning drive that he had. He has it in him. You don't want to have to
He has a
rely.
daddy in him.
He got a little daddy in him.
He has his daddy in him.
And so it's a matter of just kind of leaning on the tools that you already have there.
Right.
Don't stress him out. Let him do his thing. Like, for instance, his stat line right now in a 21-0 game, he is 1 for 2 for 22 yards.
That's what I'm saying. When you don't have to pass the ball and you can rely on your run game, Gary, and you can rely on your defense getting you the football back, getting 3 and outs, you don't have to pass the ball. The game of football is not hard. A lot of coaches out here and a lot of people want to try to make the game of football hard. No, you do what the defense do what the defense gives you on the offensive side, and if you're a defense, you do what you do. Control the ball, control the line of scrimmage, win. So when you get to that game against LSU and you get to that game against Alabama, you're ready to roll.
Well, that's scary because we actually did see him do that in the opening week showcase when he was spinning against Oregon, and he's the reason they won.
That's exactly
so
right. That
we know
game-winning
he
drive.
can manage.
He is more
but
than
he
capable.
can also spin.
Yes.
That's crazy.
It's
I didn't know
scary.
he was 1 for 2 though.
Yeah, 1 for 2, dog.
You want to win?
1 for
Put
2.
Bo in.
Let him spin.
Let Bo spin.
Let him spin. This is the College Football Show here on Twitter, YouTube Live, and the ESPN app. We appreciate you joining us. Just as a reminder, we are a supplemental viewing, right? Like, so you set it up on your phone. We're talking to you about today's games. We're talking to you about what has happened, is happening, and will happen in the coming matchups for the night slate. Trevor's guest, Harry Douglas. I'm going to slow down.
He trying to say
slow down. I'm going to slow down.
Everybody love it. Everybody love it. You ain't messing with my Douglas.
Trevor Scales, Harry Douglas, Gary Striewski.
I can't do that though.
No? Okay. One of our favorite parts of this program, though, it's like our top plays of the day. We call it a little differently, though. It's called Holy Cow. We are a family program here on the College Football Show, so we can't say holy bleep. We just say Holy Cow, right? Very simple setup, very simple mechanics for the day. It's your top plays of the day, and as I look down at my iPad and filibuster is so I can get myself sorted out for this upcoming play.
On Vanderbilt,
I
Trev.
appreciate the help. We are talking about with that is Jordan Nettles is leveled by Kenny Herbert. And I just take personal offense to this play. Because again, if I'm on an outlet, right? If I'm helping you out as a quarterback, right? And I'm just trying to be there for you so you don't get your stuff rocked, don't get my stuff rocked. That's all I ask as a running back. Like,
Have my
if I'm
back.
half the time I'm in there to protect you, and I'm getting my face stretched against 3 techniques and linebackers that I have no business going up toe-to-toe with. And then you gonna hang me out to dry like that. That is completely unacceptable. We do a scoring system right here, 0 to 100, right? And my score for that is 50. If they gave me a chance to give it a 0, I would have. So that gets a 50 on the cow meter. I'm just not a fan of it.
Well, I'll tell you this. Right here, this next play, we have a receiver because I'm a receiver. That's what we love.
Oh, okay, let's get to it then.
We have Smith Marset here for Iowa. And this is I'm a better athlete than you. Stop and go. Stop
I'm tearing
and go.
every ligament
you
in my
don't
leg
belong
right
on
there.
the same field as me. Stop and go. You do not belong on the same field as me. One more time, stop and go. Fall down, get up, get your face out the turf. You know the little black beads on the turf.
All the stuff in your
all
face.
in his face mask.
Yo,
All in his mask.
look.
Get some water spread off of you. Listen, come on, man. Come on.
No, that's respect.
Come on.
So now you got to give it a rating. What you got on the rating for this one?
Well, I'm gonna give it an 83. Ask me why, Trevor.
Why do you have it at 83 here?
My jersey in the NFL was number 83, and I can give it what I want to give it, Trevor.
That's a flex that not many of us can have, so I respect it. Like, look, if you gonna go with that logic for your score, who am I to tell you? I'm not gonna be the one to sit here and tell you can't do that, but I guess we gonna just move on. Gary, I believe, has another one for.
Yeah, we're taking a trip to the Carrier Dome. We had Syracuse hosting Holy Cross and Holy you-know-what, because that's Trill Williams and Spencer Gilliam on the receiving end of the suplex. Fellas, I got a question for you.
I want you to ask me because I pretty much
I was getting ready to
know
say
what
it.
I'm about to say.
Go ahead, yeah.
So you think I'm gonna give a guy named Trill anything less than a hundo right here? I just, because
Listen.
Trill Will for the kill right there is getting a bill.
I know one thing, that guy that got suplex, he must not have that much heart, because if Trill would have slammed me like that, I would have been
you
getting
get-
kicked out of
immediately.
that.
You're
I'd have
getting
been
up.
getting kicked out of that ball
It is
game.
meaty.
Okay.
Like, listen.
There was a flag, so you know.
I don't
it's
care
not
about
that.
the flag.
It's
I don't
not-
care
like,
about the
we can
flag.
handle that later. Like, you
I gotta handle my business.
that
I gotta handle my business. Gary, I have kids. You can't have my son watching his daddy getting suplex on national TV. Can't have
And
that.
that's why we're different. I'm like, thank you, referee, for the penalty. Let me just catch my breath.
So we have a score for you, right? Like, you got a score on that one?
I already told you, I'm going to keep it a buck for Trill because I'm not going to give him less than 100.
That
He'll
is
suplex
2
me.
moves
I
worth.
got this.
2 moves worth.
Trill
2
Williams.
moves worth.
And you know
there.
what? I'm mad because last week I gave out 100. I said, oh man, these things are going to be rare. This is probably going to be the only 100 I hand
And I
out this
told
season.
you.
And then Max
told you.
gives me a guy named Trill who suplexed the guy in the Carrier Dome. How am I supposed to not give that 100?
The suplex was so Trill, you had to.
It's right there for you. So now we have a bonus, holy cow, right? This is one that came in real late in the game. All of us were down here watching on our plethora of screens, and it has to do with a specialist. This is one of the ones that, like, I will have to make the exception for. A fake punt pulled up by one West Carolina, Caleb Ferguson. And your man's got a little speed.
He had some wheels, Trevor.
I had no idea, and I'm sure that defense didn't either.
Guys, do we call that deceptively fat? Never mind.
Deceptive athletic.
Is that what they call it?
Sneaky
We put it
athlete.
in quotation marks?
Look at number 44. He's like, oh, play's over. No, it ain't.
Punt returner got caught slipping too. All of it. It was just fantastic. 69-yard score. Very nice. And we also give that 100, just for the record. That is also very much so worth it. That is so worth it. It's a beautiful thing. Shout out to the specialists down there in Western Carolina. Another segment that we like to do here. We get to celebrate a little bit there, but now, you hear the sound. That's exactly your reaction. The moment you see it go down on screen, there's plenty of bruh moments throughout all of college football. Week 5, Trevor, Harry, and Gary here to take you through it. The first one, it comes from, let's see, do I have my teams on here? Oh, okay, here we go. Ross Bowers out to Mitchell Brinkman. 38-yard score. But the important part here happened early on in the play for Northern Illinois. There's a Vanderbilt defender draped on him, there for the coverage.
And he just gave up.
Just let him go.
Oh, sure.
So, bro, what are we doing here? Like, what exactly are we coaching you up to do if you just gonna let cats just run bare booty to the end zone like that?
He just
Bruh, did you hear a whistle?
Bruh, did you hear a whistle?
Bruh, come over here and sit beside me.
Fair enough also.
Bruh, you are no longer going back in the game.
Also fair.
Bruh, I'm thinking about taking your scholarship away from you.
All of it. Just the 4 piece. It just got progressively worse as you watch this play more and more because
This is bad. This is terrible.
that's just not
That's terrible.
okay. Did he think somebody else was there?
Bruh, you are no longer going to be on this TV screen. We don't even want to see you anymore.
We will keep it pushing to the very next bruh play. A personal foul by Sam Dup Miller. Ruins a great punt return, and this was one that you saw immediately. You were like, oh no, I got to talk about this one here between Northwestern and Wisconsin. Because this really did change the game.
I want y'all to pay attention to the score right here. It's 7-3. 7-3. That punt return was in across midfield. All he has to do, Trevor, what do we talk? Just hit by him.
Screen.
Just hit by him. You don't even really have to hit by him. Just get in front of him.
Yeah, slow him down just a touch. And even you really didn't even have to do that, frankly. And then look at the next play.
The next play.
Wow.
So what we call that the snowball effect. We call that the domino effect. We call that, son, it's 5 or 7 plays in a ball game that determines the outcome. My friend, that happens to be one of the plays that caused Northwestern to be out of that ball game at that point.
Just be better. Be better. That's all we ask here, okay? In any case, next bruh moment is UNC. And you know what? This here is a special occasion. Oh, okay. The Surratt brothers.
Oh,
I thought somebody said Surratt brothers in my I was like, it's definitely, no, hold on, it's not Saturday night yet. But the Surratt brothers had a day. Chad Surratt, you saw the sack, and then a minute later, Sage Surratt brings in that touchdown. Heck of a day for a couple brothers doing their thing on the college gridiron in one day.
So instead of bro, it's just bro.
Basically.
Just some bros. Yeah, no one else.
But one thing I love about these brothers, man, I think they played against each other for the first time recently. Because the Surratt that plays linebacker for North Carolina was on the offensive side of the ball and moved to the defensive side of the ball. But shout out to the Surratt brother who plays wide receiver, because right now he is the second leading receiver in the nation. Jamie Newman and that Wake Forest teams, they're doing great things.
Rolling,
and
4-0.
looking very promising right
Absolutely.
now. The only bad thing for the Wake Forest team, they're on the same side as Clemson.
Yeah, so that's just an unfortunate run. Now, we saw it earlier today, it could be anybody's day, but it just doesn't look like that for many other teams, especially after Clemson gets a scare like that. Do we have one more bruh moment, or are we keeping it pushing? You let me know. Let's keep it pushing then. Let's actually check in on, did I hear turnover belt? It's turnover belt. Turnover belt is next. Harry, your thoughts on the sideline props for defensive turnover?
I'll tell you this, I think it's getting out of hand. Miami invented the turnover chain. Okay, everyone, please let Miami have their turnover chain. Be creative. Think of something else. Don't be a copycat. I know football is a copycat league in college football and the NFL. Everybody likes to run and do everything that everybody else loves to do. But that doesn't mean you have to do it.
I will say
Be your own man.
The belt is kind of hard. It's kind of hard.
They spent some money on that. Yeah,
they did put a pretty penny into it. It's kind of hard.
that's got some nice stitching.
Yeah, I think
I'll tell you one thing my high school team did, Jonesboro High School down in Clayton County. When guys made big plays, especially the D linemen, they'd come over and the coach would pour syrup in their mouth. So the big guys would be over there like, belly full of syrup, baby. Get energized up to go back out there and make some big plays.
Love it life. Gary Striewski checking in back one more time on the College Football Show. What we got next, Gary?
You took care of these duties last week, Harry. I'm so glad you
Try
did
to hold
because
it down.
it's strictly best catches we've seen throughout the week up until today. It is called, man, give me that. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Don't mind those pictures. Let's keep it pushing, and we start with Oklahoma. Jalen Hurts hooking up with Jaden Hazelwood. Now this against Texas Tech looks standard. Man, give me that on the sideline, but a pump for the review. This is full extension. And Harry, that's hard.
I'll tell you, the hardest part about it is getting the foot in bounds, still keeping your eyes on the ball, making the catch, and then going to the ground and controlling the ball. But I'll tell you one thing, you know what helped him out a lot on that ball right there? ball placement.
Sure.
Jalen Hurts put the ball only in the place where the receiver can catch the ball. And as a receiver, that's what we love.
We're going to keep it pushing. We're going to Wisconsin, and actually we got a big fella with a tip drill.
Oh, we got Fat Boy?
Wisconsin linebacker Noah.
Let's go.
Kurtz.
Oh.
Man, give me that. In the khakis, 68 yards for the tutty. The big fellas don't get that kind of love very often. House call, Wisconsin wins. Harry, I'm going to get to you on the back end of this, but we got to push through these. We're going to Jerry's World and his alma mater. Razorbacks, you saw it earlier. We might see one more replay.
Hey, look, but like, okay, great hands, got to the end zone. Shout out to him. Swagger is at an all-time low. It's just,
And when you mean all-time low, it's an all-time low. We're going in the negatives, Trevor. He gets no cool points for his
if
swag.
there was a moon meter for this, it would have
He's
to
not
go
listening
below
to
this.
any of that because he scored. Oh, here we go. As promised. This right here, Ben Hicks, 13-yard pass complete to Mike Woods, who had defenders draped all over him. You got Joe Dirt right there. He's celebrating too. Now, Arkansas will go on and lose this game, but the ball placement right here, the back shoulder, this is what you practice in practice. And without the quarterback putting that pinpoint right there, this doesn't happen, right, Harry?
I'll tell you this, we call this a fade stop. The defender can never be right. You can never be in the position to make the play. Aaron Rodgers does a great job. He's the best at it with the Green Bay Packers. Good job by that team right there.
We're going to Waco. Here we go. Oh, more defense too. The quarterback has to know better to get more arm behind this. But this right here is Baylor linebacker Jordan Williams with the catch and already got that Sunday mentality. Not 1 foot, but 2 foot toe tap. Gucci.
Linebacker making a catch like that?
I think so. Linebacker.
That might be one of
Free safety.
the best catches of the year.
Man,
Ooh.
give me that. And I think we got one more. SMU wide receiver James Prochet extends.
Oh, wait, we just got to celebrate this just a
Okay,
little
I
bit
guess.
more, Gary. Just let me look at this one, because I was moving
Anytime
around
we get
in the chairs
anytime
and
we get a
whatnot.
defender that gets a little tip drill or gets something nice on the sideline, we will celebrate it. So I guess that will conclude. Man, give me that. Thanks, Harry.
We appreciate you, Gary, here on the
Yeah.
College Football Show on Twitter, YouTube Live, and the ESPN app. You see two of us, we're a lot closer because we have somebody joining us here on the College Football Show. Heather Dinich, college football reporter extraordinaire. We appreciate you joining us here, and let's get right into it because we got like 5 minutes left, so we're going to roll through this, but we do want to get your take, early thoughts on the playoff situation, especially in the Pac-12. How many if-then statements are we looking at to make sure one of those teams at least doesn't beat themselves out of the entire playoff race?
A lot, because it's clearly more than just Clemson and Alabama this year, right? And I think Washington can make a statement, and Oregon, either one of those as one-loss conference champs is right in this thing. The committee's not going to leave Oregon out because it lost to Auburn, especially if Auburn continues to roll the way it is. So I think some people want the Pac-12 to fall off the rest of the earth over there and say, hey, they're done. Not quite yet. Not yet.
They have really good showings on a week-to-week basis. We saw USC go down to the wire, or not this week, but their win over Utah was impressive. But then Washington comes out and shows that they are just as efficient as all get up. And I want to kind of get an understanding for this early quarter of the season, these first 4 weeks. What exactly is the committee taking from these 4 weeks? How much are they going to input it into week 8 when those first rankings come out?
I think a lot of it goes to the non-conference games and the non-conference wins, right? LSU goes on the road and beats Texas. That's huge, especially if Texas continues to win. They're in the mix for the Big 12 championship. If you look at also Auburn beating Oregon, that's another one great win. Georgia beating Notre Dame. These non-conference wins, if these teams go on to contend for their titles, are what can separate them in the committee's eyes down the stretch. Now, Clemson, Texas A&M, that can be a different picture, right? Because A&M, especially with the way they look today, can lose 5 games this year. So that win can be devalued. It works both ways.
We saw that you were down with the Auburn program. Want to kind of get your thoughts on what the ceiling is for this Bo Nix-led offense. We saw it's like 1 for 22, but 1 for 2 for 22 yards, but they're up 21-0.
Yeah, guys, I was so floored by Bo Nix's poise. I mean, he's a teenager, and he's out there making these plays. He's confident. He's playing in front of 100,000 people last week at Texas A&M and getting the job done. A couple overthrows on would-be touchdown passes, right? But Gus is calling the plays, and they are just, especially with the healthy receivers out there, Anthony Schwartz is blazing fast, and to be able to get him and Seth Williams the ball, They're rolling.
Anthony Schwartz, the first guy to get the Tigers on the scoreboard this evening. Again, they are up 21-0 last time we checked. We've got the game here going on the College Football Show here on ESPN Twitter, on the ESPN app, Twitter, and the and YouTube Live. That's the third medium, right? That's
all of it.
Covered. I think we're everywhere. Just
and they're talking reckless on YouTube. Everyone's saying Clemson needs to drop to at least number 3.
Ooh,
we're reckless in the comments. We're reckless in the comments.
You can't say that. You can't. But I have a scenario I have a question for you.
Hit me.
If you have everyone has a loss, how do you do it then? If everyone has a loss.
Right. That's when those non-conference games come in, right? And the rest of the SEC, or the ACC, excuse me, how do they look? People forget Clemson still has to play South Carolina at South Carolina. You beat 2 SEC teams, that catches the committee's attention, right? Remember in 2014, Florida State was undefeated, but they did not look good. They weren't beating the snot out of everybody they played. That could be Clemson this year, right? They could drop to number 3 by the selection committee. Just because you're undefeated doesn't mean you're number 1. There's a lot of other talented teams out there that can make that case. But we saw today how vulnerable Clemson is, and if they drop one game, then it just opens the door for debate. You talk about one-loss teams. That's one that could be really.
All right, one more question before you go.
Okay.
One quick.
We got to get some jokes off on Gary.
Who is your number 1 team right now in the nation?
If you do it just by strength of record, resume-wise, it has to be Auburn. They have the 2 best wins in the country. But I think it's hard not to give the nod to Alabama because they're Alabama. They've
Benefit of the
really
doubt.
Good.
They've earned it.
They've got Tua. They've earned it.
Great.
But, if the selection committee met today and walked out of the room, I would be shocked if Auburn wasn't somewhere in their top 4.
Without a question. Heather Dinich, we always appreciate you joining us here. We'll be with you later on in the season, kind of checking in on you, seeing how that post up outside. Did they get you a chair outside the committee meeting room yet?
Not yet.
Goodness.
I'm still trying to bang my way in the committee.
Okay, yeah. We'll just break down.
I'm going to make some calls.
Okay, Harry Douglas is the man.
I mean, he knows everybody.
I'm going to make some calls.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary Striewski is over there stretching out, getting his triceps right evidently, because we have a little something that we want to talk about.
Man.
We saw Virginia Tech with a robot that could do push-ups. And so the production team got to thinking.
I'm not happy about this.
How many push-ups can the man Gary Striewski do? Like, we see him hosting sports on Snapchat at all times. Man's got a good frame, out of wide shoulders. But what's the tricep work like?
All that said, Sid, the director, disrespected me in the meeting, apparently. I wasn't even there to defend my own honor when he said he didn't think I could do a push-up.
You didn't hear that from me, Gary.
No money. Yeah, look.
That hurts. I'm hurt. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a push-up. For every completion Bo Nix has up to this point. How many was that?
Hold on, let me check.
I know
because you're talking that noise.
now.
Go ahead, Vim, because I was getting ready to say. Look, I
got a push-up.
He's got 4.
I hear bones creaking.
I was getting ready to say.
When you get north of 30, like me,
Oh, no.
What you got?
you're always day to day.
Elbows tight?
That's good.
That's 1.
Lock them things on out, Gary.
Yeah, go ahead.
two.
Come all the way up now.
You said 4?
Lock them on out.
I got 1 more.
There it is.
All right.
There it is. Okay. That was solid.
Sid,
4.
you owe me.
That
I'm going to go sit down.
was Sid was talking spicy. He really was.
I got to go sit down.
Get him some water.
We'll end out on a high note for Gary, and we will end out on a high note here on the College Football Show. We appreciate you all joining us here on Twitter, YouTube Live, and the ESPN app. Come on back and get some more of this fun. Week 6, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern on all those aforementioned mediums. Big shout out to the production team. Y'all always take care of us. We appreciate y'all. But until week 6, we'll say farewell. We'll see y'all next week.